on. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to this presentation. It means a lot to us. This is the first time that we are coming to the LAR Book Fair and also having this moment to share the work that we do at the press is very beautiful, and personally, I'm very grateful. My name is Andrea, and I run this published project called Miau Ediciones. We are going to present Las Tareas de Mercedes from Victoria Jiménez. And I briefly want to talk a little bit about what we do at the publishing press. Miau Ediciones is an independent publishing project focused on feminist publications. We are based in Mexico City. We work mainly with women and non-binary artists and we publish photo books, poetry, graphic, illustration, a little bit of everything. We work primarily with a risograph machine, and our print run, it's between 100 or 200 per title. We have published so far probably like 20 different publications, mostly fanzines. And something that is really important for our project is that we are not only focused in the product itself, I mean, the publication itself, but we are really concerned for the publication to be circulated, but also activated through workshops, through talks, and like different activations. Because for us, it's very important to work with our authors as well. And yeah, this is just a photograph, a series of photographs of the studio and the workshop we work together, and some activities that we do there. And yes, well, I'm gonna start talking about Ana Victoria Jiménez. I'm just gonna read very briefly her biography because I think she is the protagonist of this evening. So Ana Victoria Jiménez is a Mexican feminist photographer. She's an editor, an activist born in Mexico City in 1941. She began her political involvement in the 60s and became deeply engaged with the feminist movement in the 70s. Her work combines artistic creation with political commitment, especially to women's rights and gender equality. Through her life, Ana Victoria used photography not just as an artistic medium, but as a powerful political tool to document the everyday realities and struggles of women. She captured feminist protest collectives, consciousness-raising meetings, performances, and daily domestic life. Her intention was never just to take pictures, as she said, but to create a visual memory of a movement in motion, one that was often ignored by traditional media and excluded from official archives. In addition to photography, she also worked as a graphic designer and editor for feminist publications. She believed in the power of independent publishing as a way of disseminate feminist ideas and connect with broader audiences, especially women from working class backgrounds. Her personal archive consists of more or less 5,000 documents, including photographs, posters, zines, flyers, banners, and recordings. This archive spans from the early 70s to the late 90s and provides a unique and intimate record of the second wave of feminism in Mexico. It is now preserved at the Universidad Iberoamericana's library in Mexico City. Ana Victoria's work is part of exhibitions and research worldwide, including the landmark show Radical Women Latin American Art. That exhibition was exhibited here in the Hammer Museum, I think 6 years ago. Yet she remains humble about her impact. She often said that she didn't consider herself as an artist, just someone who was documenting what mattered. But through her lens, she gave political weight and visibility to the everyday lives and struggles of women, creating one of the most important feminist archives in Latin America. Ana Victoria, she's still alive. She's probably, she was born in 41, so I'm guessing she's almost 85. The reason that she's not here is because, sadly, Ana Victoria right now it's in a very vulnerable position with her health. But I feel very honored that in the process of this book, we were able to work together. And it's happens also that Ana Victoria was my neighbor in that city that is so crazy and so big. So it was a very beautiful process. And I'm going to tell you more about it and about, as we read, the importance of her archive. So Ana Victoria Jiménez, just by accident, she started to create this big archive while she was also marching, taking pictures, and performing with other artists in Mexico City, as we said, from the late 70s to the early 90s. And she built this huge archive that is now in the Universidad Iberoamericana in Mexico City. They bought the archive, I think, in 2011. It is free consultation, so you can just go there and then ask if you want to see a particularly piece or a photograph or a book. And as we were always trying to figure out what to publish next with our research machine, we found out about this archive probably, I think it was 2020, just before the pandemic. So it was very frustrating. I felt very frustrated because I just discovered this big archive, and then I wouldn't go because everything was closed, and also it was so dangerous back in the day, without the vaccine and the COVID situation happening. But in the other hand, it was pretty cool because then someone from the archive introduced me Ana Victoria, and then we had these long conversations by telephone, and it was cool because then I had a very intimate approach about her work without seeing it yet, but so she was telling me about all the things that she had worked in the past. Ana Victoria is the one that is raising her hand, and the other women in the photograph are other feminist artists from Mexico City, which is Yolanda Andrade. And this is a photograph that was taken when they did this piece from Judy Chicago. The International Dinner Party also happened in Mexico City. And here is Ana Victoria again in the center, in the middle of a march in the 90s. It's very curious because Ana Victoria, at the same time, I think she still doesn't know the importance of her archive nowadays. I mean, she doesn't think that she's an artist. She doesn't think that she's a photographer. She's very humble about it. She's always like, yeah, I just did it because I like it. But I don't think that actually she embraces all the complexity, but the importance of having this kind of documentation open for everyone, and mostly for young women or for the feminist movement, because for us it's very important the fact that we can trace down, go back and trace down, because sometimes you think that no one was before you. Sometimes in Mexico you will think maybe the feminist movement started with the Me Too, before that what was happening. And no, then you discovered there's a lot of things happen before you that actually allows you to have what you have today. So it was very curious that she doesn't believe that she's an artist. And we are gonna talk specifically about the Cuaderno de Tareas, which is the seed that later became Las Tareas de Mercedes. So el Cuaderno de Tareas originally was intended for Ana Victoria to be this kind of notebook, an agenda, in which women could write down all the hours that they dedicated to labor, to the house chores. And we're talking here around the 70s, late 70s. And she was working with this collective that is called, or was called, I don't know if the collective is still there, Colectivo Atabal. And they were very interested, in the rights of the workers that clean houses and did domestic labor. And but this, for some reason that she doesn't remember, this agenda, this project never happened. At the end, she did have a dummy, but it never happened, and she doesn't remember why. But for this agenda, she and her friend Mercedes, back in the day, they worked together at the National University in Mexico City. In the evenings, they will go to Mercedes' house, and Ana Victoria will start to take pictures of Mercedes performing domestic labor, no? Cleaning the house, cooking, doing the, I don't know, like the floor, whipping the floor. And this is a photograph of the first and the only dummy of the original agenda, no? She was thinking in using like one photograph per month and maybe this como collage for the cover. But it never happened. Again, it never happened. So when I got close to the archive to try to see what can I do with the risograph, because at the beginning I have to admit that I was just thinking maybe we can publish a little fanzine, something very easy. But when she told me about this piece, and then I went to the archive and I started to see, I went to the archive 2 years later after I found out. So it was COVID, we couldn't go there. And back in the day, so we waited 2 years until the university started again, like regular operations and stuff. And then once we saw the amount of photographs that she took to about Mercedes, it was something about 300 pictures. So when we saw that, it was like, okay, no, this is something bigger. This is a photo book. It must be a photo book. And this is like something else. This is a picture of the exhibition that happened with this series, with some of the series, some of the picture of this series here in the Hammer Museum. But again, it was just like a small selection of the whole thing. And then when another exhibition that happened in Mexico City 2 years ago. But I'm showing you this only for you to know that at the end, we will never got to see a wider scope of the full project. So that's why we were very excited in publishing this book. There's a copy, I think, circulating. Yeah, exactly. So you can see the final result there, some pictures. You can see. So she's Ana Victoria recently. Right now, she's living in an asylum. Well, it's not an asylum, sorry. Retired home for elder people in Mexico City. So she right now is in a very vulnerable position because sadly she doesn't have people like family to take care of her, no? And all the irony, no? Because she dedicated a lot of her work and her life in this kind of projects for helping women. And I have more copies, like if you wanna, I don't know if you wanna hold some, is that okay? Okay. And so, yeah, so right now, well, I'm gonna get to this point later, but there's a couple of artists that are working with her archive as I'm doing, as we did. So we are helping her with the selling of the pieces that we're producing out of the archive for taking care of her properly. But why it is important to talk about this kind of work today? I'm gonna go back a little bit, sorry, I think I went too fast. With these pictures, I think it's very symbolic. We think it's very symbolic because nowadays, even if the photograph seems like old because they came from film, sadly, I think the doble jornada, as we call it in Spanish, or the extra, no, the extra hours that mostly women put in the efforts of caring not only in the house but also like the emotional care, it's something that is still happening nowadays. And maybe just because some of the items in the photos looks that they are old, you can tell that like, oh, yeah, maybe these photos are not recent, but other than that, it is a situation that still happens a lot. No, it's something that as a society, we're still working and trying to figure it out how to be equal in that repartitions of domestic tasks, no? For us, publishing this book was very important. It is very important for so many reasons, but I will say one of them is, well, the first of all, that Ana Victoria, I don't know why, but her work is so huge and still a lot of people doesn't know about her. You know, like young women, they still doesn't know about her. And a lot of the theory that is being produced in Latin America regarding feminism sometimes doesn't take her work into consideration. And this is so insane because her archive is huge. And also, I was forgetting to tell you, but last year, the UNESCO, they gave her this award, well, not award, but recognition. How can I say this in Spanish? Como memoria del mundo, como it was acknowledged like memory of the world because of its importance. And well, for us, it was important to publish it because of that. No, it's like she's so great, she has done so much, and we have to continue circulate the work that she does, even in this small effort, because at the end of the day, we acknowledge that we don't have the capacity to publish more than probably 300 or 400 the print run, because we're working with risograph. And that allows you to produce at some level that is between the digital and the offset printing, but it is a lot of effort to produce this because it's handmade. First that, and second, that for us also having the object, it's como returning to the archive the materiality of it. No? It's como create another part of the history of that archive nowadays. Also because publishing for us in the conditions that we work in Mexico is an act of resistance. And I think it's also like a beautiful tribute to her work. Now continue the labor and the path that she traced in the past for us. No? Because I think if we are doing what we're doing today, if there are people in Mexico, women in Mexico that are dedicated their lives to the arts or the publishing or the books, is because she was important in the past. She opened the door for us. And it's also a way to reactivate and invite people to go close to her work. No? And I'm gonna show you some pictures. Even I think the book is over there still, but we can see a little bit of the pictures here. And I don't have much to say in this part because I think we can just observe some of the, I would say some of the photos are very focused on the hands of Mercedes, but then we can also see another, I will say, characters entering into the picture as this little baby. It's very interesting because at the beginning, I was very sure that this baby was the grandson of Ana Victoria, but later she told me that actually is the baby of a neighbor. And Mercedes was also taking care of the baby because this other woman had to work sometimes. So this photograph starts to become somehow como a meta universe of carings. And I think we will later see the other woman. Ana Victoria doesn't remember the name of this other woman, but yeah, so as we were working on this book and reviewing this photograph, we also starting to notice extra information that we didn't have at the beginning. It was also on purpose that we decided not to pair everything chronologically. O sea, it's like it's not a perfect sequence of the domestic chores, because also, and this idea was, Ana Victoria had it, that when actually you're doing this, you're doing like 1,000 things at the same time. No, it's like you're boiling the water while you are also heating, I don't know, something else, or you're waiting for, I don't know, something to be ready, but you're folding the clothes. So it's like you're just not doing one thing. So in that sense, that is why the book or the photographies in the book are not in perfect order. For me, it's also very nostalgic. Like my grandmother used to have this kind of devices, no? So, and not all the photographs are about the hands. Mm-hmm. So this is the other person. And then here we can see a little bit of the identity of Mercedes, not only the hands. For us, that was also important, that because before, originally, we wanted to keep the title, the original title of the agenda, no? Cuaderno de Tareas. But a friend of ours told us, like, no, you don't do it, because it's not the original agenda that Ana Victoria wanted. No, you're doing something else. And then I was very como struggling with a new title, because we were always at the end, like just about start printing. But then it was very obvious as well. It's como Mercedes, which is the protagonist of these books. I mean, her house, her intimacy, like everything about her, and we are not saying her name. O sea, only because we know who she is, because Ana Victoria told us, but there's no name. Even in the registration of the photographs in the archive in the university, there's no como record of that. The photograph doesn't have anything else but the whatever number that they give to these items. So it was very important for us then to, okay, let's just name Mercedes. She is the protagonist of this book. Oh, what am I doing? Okay. So that's why we changed the name eventually to Las Tareas de Mercedes. And I don't know if I'm missing something else. Okay, so yeah, this is also nice. At one point, Ana Victoria started to experiment with collage and with these texts that I thought she wanted to make interventions also for the agenda, but we found this text. Actually, she typewrote it, and then she took a photo of the text, and it's an extract of the, I don't know the name in English, Una habitación propia de Virginia Woolf. That one. And it's this paragraph that talks about this fictional sister that Shakespeare had. And what about if this sister existed, probably she will never like reach the point that Shakespeare did, being a poet or a writer, because she was a woman, basically that's what it says. And so we also thought that was special somehow. Ana Victoria didn't want to use it. I don't know why. She was like, no, like makes no sense nowadays. And I was like, no, makes totally sense. And you took that photo of that text for a reason, so let's just use it. And then something very beautiful happened and this is, I think this is important. When we work in this kind of publishing projects that are so, I want to say small, that we are just a few people doing these very specific items, and you are como, yeah, you're small in your capacities. There's always a problem with money and resources and time. And often these kind of projects that we have are como sustained by the free time that we have, no? And we are holding up with like four different jobs, it's very difficult to get the money to produce them. No? So while I was working in reviewing these archives for so many years, because as I told you, this story started in 2020. We published the book last November, so it took us 4 years. And working with the university, like I was telling, each time I went, I will tell the director of the archive, like, hey, I'm working on this book, like, can I publish it? Like, how does this work? They were very como, we have never done this before, no, o sea, de que, I don't even know. He told me, like, I don't even know if we can give you the rights to publish this, because my editorial project is not under any legal status. It's just a project that I have. It's very independent. So they didn't there was no legal language for that. But within time and trust, once I started to work in the design and explain to them like the intention that we had, with the book, somehow the university got very enthusiastic with us in co-publishing the book, and at the end they gave us funding. And it was pretty cool because it was the first time they did it. And so I hope that somehow opens the door for future independent publishing projects that comes to them. And so later they also, some of the people that work at the university, from the archive, from the library, from the art department, they also wrote some essays that talks about Ana Victoria's work. And that is also part of the book. These 2 pages are from the original agenda. And yeah, well, I just wanna finish with these strong numbers. These statistics are from Mexico. Like, I don't have the ones from the States, but this is from the INEGI, which is the department in Mexico that is the one that, ¿cómo se dice that? Take the census, no? Como census of health, economy, etc. And well, they do it, I think, each 4 years or 2 years. I don't remember. It's not yearly, but whatever. So I have this chart, no? Hours dedicated to domestic tasks. In 2022, Mexican women devoted 65% of their week to domestic and caregiving tasks. In the meanwhile, men only spend 30% of their week. So there is a big difference there. It's double the time. On average, women aged 20 to 59 who work outside the home spend 31 hours per week on household chores and childcare. And then again, if we compare that to the hours that men dedicated to that, it's lower, no? On average, women aged 12 and older devoted 39.7 hours per week to unpaid domestic labor. On average, women spend 24.5 more hours per week than men on unpaid domestic work. There's still a lot to do. Of course, there's a lot of effort happening, not only pushing from the society, but also I think the current government is trying to fix that. No? There's a lot of programs that talks about how can we recognize the unpaid labor and give more support and structure to the people that dedicate their lives to this, not only in the privacy of their homes, but also like the people that do this as a work for other people. And as I told you before, well, I really want to talk about this a little bit. Ana Victoria, she's still alive, but she's in a very vulnerable position because she didn't have family. She had a son, but her son died. And she has a brother, but the brother is also old. And so she's very alone. So luckily, she has a lot of friends. And because of her archive, a lot of, I would say, younger women started to work closely with her and also get to know her better before she was put in this elderly house. And so right now we are making and organizing different events and also campaigns to gather money and resources for her. And yeah, so this is a small commercial. This is the link for the campaign. Like if you want to donate, um, one part of the print run is going for her support, but there's also different pieces. I don't know if this is, can I do this? Okay. So this is the website. Oh no, sorry. This is not the website, but if you took a picture, that's nice. And oh, this is sad because I think, okay, yeah. Let's see if this works. I'm gonna show you a little video. It's in Spanish, but this is Ana Victoria telling you a little bit about this campaign. Give me a moment. Let's see if this works. Yeah.
¿Se acuerdan que hicimos aquí primero? ¿Se acuerdan de esa señora? ¿Alguien la conoció?
That's her when she was younger.
¿Quiénes son las personas que vemos aquí? Esa soy yo. Así que más o menos la llevo bien, ¿verdad? Con calmita. Pero la señora esta me da ganas. Buenas tardes a todas y a todos. Soy Ana Victoria Jiménez Álvarez. Sigo pidiéndoles que me sigan apoyando como lo han hecho hasta ahora. Muchas gracias por todo, sobre todo a las compañeras fotógrafas, camarógrafas, periodistas que han estado metidas en todo el asunto, ¿no? Y a las dedicadoras también.
While we are working on that, currently we have 25% of the final goal that will allow Ana Victoria to have better care in the place where she's staying at. Is for getting better doctors, dental health, therapy, motion therapy, and also because we want her to have her own room. So yeah, we are continually just doing this kind of activities for her. I just want to finalize to saying that for us, this book is a total recognition to her work, and also to continue this labor that for her was very important to get for women the recognition that they need in terms of care, no, and or equality. So yeah, for us, it is an honor to work with her, and also, well, we are very happy to be here, so you can know a little bit more of her work, and yeah, she's great. So I think that's it. I don't know if you have some questions. I will be so happy to hear you. I'm seeing some familiar places. Thank you for coming. And yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
I was wondering, not specific to this project, but not excluding this project, like if you can talk maybe a little bit about your design process and how it relates to the medium, the production use of the risograph.
It does have a lot of limits, but in this case, I think limits are good because, and maybe I should have started with this, I don't know, because I didn't explain to you what risography is because I'm assuming it's so popular now that everyone knows about it. So the riso is a machine, a Japanese machine that uses spot inks. It has, inside of the machine, there is this big drum that works as a stamp. So you need a big drum per ink. So if you are working I don't know, like 3 different inks into your design, you will have to exchange these big drums, no, with their respective cartridge, and then basically what the machine does is that you enter a piece of paper, and it looks like a stamp, no? And but you have also the speed of a duplicator, a digital duplicator, and it's quite cool. The original intention of this machine is not actually do this kind of work. Its original purpose is to produce thousands and thousands of flyers, no, como a lot of ephemera. So probably a lot of schools or churches has one. And then around the 80s, art, the artists and a lot of como graphics, I'm sorry, artists or illustrators or como creative people started to use these machines to produce like, I would say fanzines or prints because it's quite easier and cheaper than maybe do an engraving, no? Or like to produce a skin printing, not cheaper, but it's more easy because it's just right in the moment. In that functionality, there is an economy of time. I wouldn't say that it's cheap because it's not. Sometimes it's not. But I will say that it's cheaper than the offset in some cases and cheaper than digital printing. So working in that scenario with the spot inks and that speed, you have to take that into account, no? Like you cannot, I mean, you multiply the amount of time that it will take you to produce a photo book in this case that is 4 inks per 4 inks because you then have to put the paper 4 times per all the different, like, in this case, the sheets, no? Como se dice? Los pliegos, no? Like, and then you have to fold everything and go into the binder and then multiply that for, I don't know, 300 titles, no? So for short answer, I think for me is I take that into account, the economy of time, but also the resources. So all my decisions, if I start to add in something, I know that more paper, more pages, or more color, that will como extrapolate, no? Como into something that could be very complicated. It's not that you cannot do it, but it's something that for me, in my process, it's always there. Like how much time and resources for me it's gonna take. And then I ask myself that question, like, it is necessary? Because as a designer, sometimes you want to be crazy about it. No? Oh, I can do this and that, but for me, that's the limit. Because at the end, I'm also the one that is going to print that. It's not only the design, I'm also going to print that. And so that's also new because sometimes when you are just a designer, because I also make books that are, for me, I just got into the design process and that's it. Like I don't do the printing because I send these books to the offset, whatever. In this case, it's me the one that is there with the machine. For me, that is an important question. So how much effort is this necessary? Should I get rid of the pages, some pages, no? Como continue the editing, como to the essential. But also, I think that's a very particular question because probably it's not, for me, the essential is not the same than for you.
Could you put back the slide that had the hours of domestic work?
Of course. There you go. Again, I don't know if it's the same here in the States. This chart belongs to Mexican context. But I think that's a good question, like a question for you, no? Like if you want to make some research. Yeah, I don't have the data, but I think it's something that probably happens here. Maybe that's a question that I have for you. Like if you feel that in your context, as Americans are related with this situation somehow. I don't know if someone else has a question or a thought. I'm ultra nervous as well. Like, you know, like, o sea, de que, my English is como, Thank you. It's super difficult.
Hi. No, I just wanted to felicitaciones, congratulations on this amazing book and
Thank you.
on all the work that is like related to it. And I know these photographers' work because of an exhibition I visited some months ago in Mexico. And I wanted to I mean, if you know what, how did she build this archive and what kinds of materials does she have? So that's the question.
She just started, she told me like, one day, I was like, probably this is gonna be important in the future. You know, like the flyers, when she was taking the picture, it was, yeah, because we need to have some kind of documentation of this performance, let's say, you know? And then she started just to storage, I will say by intuition. And then she noticed that she couldn't take more things into her house, no? Como, this is so huge. What is this? What I'm gonna do with all this information, all these items? So she started to categorize them, but without training. O sea, de que she's not a person that works or that used to work with that kind of information or that knowledge. It was just like, okay, books here, photographs about this here, and that. O sea, this is before the internet and computers, no? So all the negatives, no, all the rollos, no. She started como to put this in folders. Later on, a friend of hers, Karen Cordero, she was the one that started to recommend her, like, hey, we should kind of build something that is more organized, no? And then when she saw, with the university, because she tried to I'm not gonna say sell, but like give this archive to institutions, because then she was like, okay, this is too much for it to be here in my place. It's gonna get damaged somehow by the weather or by whatever, an earthquake, whatever, no? And so when the Ibero at the end paid for the archive to have the rights, it took them, when I went there, o sea, I'm talking about 2011. They acquired the archive in 2011. When I went 12 years later, they were still organizing. For sure, they were still, because it is huge, and she couldn't manage, no, to pre-organize that before giving this amount of work to the university. But yeah, it was by intuition. She had this como, maybe this is gonna be something, no, for someone else in the future. Mm-hmm. Well, and of course, if you're interested in the book, we are in the second building, and I think our booth is L5. And yeah, well, I think it's great. Also, like, I invite you again, if you are interested in support Anna's work and her health, you can donate to this campaign that we're doing. And because let's not forget, and it's also, I mean, for me, it's very sad because she, again, dedicated her life to raise awareness in the caring of others, and now she needs us. So yeah, I think it's a good thing for us that are working with her work, her archive. I'm not gonna say profit, but yes, somehow, I think it is important to give back. Thank you so much, and yeah, I don't know. That's it.